Goodbye, everybody.
Let's give those guys a round of applause. It's always amazing to me what you can think up on the spot, right? Interviews like that, it's pretty cool. Hey, real quick, I know that you guys, maybe you weren't here, maybe you snuck in last minute. This Friday, Craze Night, 7 o'clock. It's going to be awesome. Come out, 7 o'clock. If you need more details, talk to me afterwards. Stop in at the guest center. Also, if you haven't signed up for camp, or maybe you're new to Elevate in the last week or two, the last month, today is one of the last times you can sign up for camp for this summer in July. You can sign up later, but this cost is going up significantly. And so there's a deadline that, we'd love to get you signed up this weekend. There's about 30 of us going. Lance gave us a bunch of details earlier. It's going to be awesome. If you have any questions, see myself or Kara or Sarah or Lance afterwards, one of your leaders, and we would love to get you guys signed up for camp. So that's that. So, jumping back into the story of Noah. When I was growing up, how many of you guys know what the original Nintendo is? Really? You guys? Really? Okay, so it was like, I don't know what was before Atari, but it was like Atari. When Atari was out, my cousin had one of those, and it was just this, like there was a one button and a joystick. It was horrible. Like, you look back at it now and you're like you tried to play basketball and it was like one guy on one guy, like Larry Bird versus Michael Jordan or Dr. J, and you couldn't even see the basket, right? Nothing looked good at all. But yeah, at the same time, it was like awesome. And then this thing, Nintendo, came out, 1987. I remember the first thing I opened, Nintendo pajamas, right? Sweatpants, Mario, Luigi, the little toadstool, the little mushroom guy. Can't remember all that stuff. And then there it was, the box, right? The prize, we had no idea it was coming. Nintendo NES. The graphics were amazing, right? It blew Atari out of the box. There was this game, go figure, my parents would find this, Noah and the Ark for Nintendo. How many of you guys have seen that game? Yeah, I didn't think so. Lance and I were trying to, I was calling my brother, I was like, does the Nintendo still work? I was like, I need this game. We were going to try and bring it up. You should go home, YouTube Noah and the Ark for an original Nintendo, and you get this wild graphics. And basically, you run around as Noah, collecting animals, and you throw them in the Ark. So Noah goes and picks up a sheep, and then he takes the sheep, and he goes and throws it in the Ark. And then there's snakes and all this stuff. Anyways, so my point is that all of us have these. Those were my first memories of this story about Noah and the Ark. And all I really knew was that there was this big boat. At some point there was a lot of rain. And that for 2 by 2, God said, put these animals on the boat, right? And later on in life, I started reading that story more. I heard a couple pastors preach about it. Pastor Chris talked about it last time in August. And all of a sudden, there's a lot more meaning to the story than I ever knew. And so today I kind of want to just, at the end of it, hopefully paint a picture for you guys of what God's message is for us from this story. And there's going to be a lot of questions that you have, and that's why we have breakouts afterwards. And also, come back tonight, because we're going to have X groups, and we're going to kind of dig into the story a little bit more. But in case you missed this in the interview, the boat was 450 feet long. That's about 2/3 the size of the Titanic. This is not like a small little, rowboat. If you took the Opera House and extended, right, another 200 feet that way, and added about 15 feet to the side of the building, I mean, this is a massive structure, right? If you're a math person, I don't know, maybe this means something to you. Doesn't mean much to me. 1,396 cubic feet. Hey, maybe that means something to you. Maybe this is more relevant. 13,900 tons. That's a lot of weight. This is big, right? This is the one that got me the most. If you took 5, you guys know those when you're driving to Bayonne or towards Newark, and you see the shipment containers that come off the boats, and they're all stacked up along the highway, along 78. 522 of those could fit on the ark. Right? So that puts it into perspective a little bit. Here's the other one that really kind of shocked me. Two more things. Basically, they figured that you needed about 50,000 sheep-sized animals. So if you took 50,000 animals about the size of a sheep, a dog, something of that size, that's about how many were needed if you calculated 2 of each animal based on what they think existed at that time. Well, if you look at the size of the ark, you could fit 125,000 sheep-sized animals. So which leaves this incredible room for, right, smaller sized animals, larger animals, all kinds of things. So that's pretty incredible. So like, as you do some of the math, what's recorded, historians have been able to add up over time from other documentation from the Bible, from different things that have been kind of data that's been collected through history. And this is the other thing that I totally forgot this. How many? We'll do a high over under. If you think that Noah was on the boat for more than 200 years, you're going to put your hand up. If you think that he was on the boat, 200 days. If you think that he was on the boat for more than 200 days, put your hand up. This is the amount of time once God closed the door to when God let him off. The amount of time, was it more than 200 days or less than? If you think it was more, put your hand up. If you think it was less than, put your hand down. Alright, so if you think it was more than 200 days, put your hand up. You guys are right. Let's see it. What can you guys guess? How many days do you think he was on the boat? More than 200. How many days? How many? Way higher.
350.
You're close.
365?
A year.
Under 400. What'd you say?
365?
Yeah, you're close. 370 days is what's recorded. Right? So, just think about that. And let alone the fact that we think that, based on what's recorded, it was somewhere around 80 to 100 years that it took Noah to actually build this thing, which is just nuts. I read this story and I keep asking myself, what was Noah thinking? What were the people thinking that were watching this take place? And so, here's kind of the big idea that I want to focus in on for a few minutes. And it's this idea of that God has a perfect plan for us. And specifically, he has a plan of salvation, a plan to save us. And what we're going to see over my next couple points is that Noah was given a perfect plan by God to save him and his family and those that were willing to get on the boat. In that same plan, God offers us a perfect plan to save us. And so there's a little bit of history that we have to know about kind of what was happening at this time. Well, in the ancient world, similar to our world today, they deserved judgment for their sin or for their wickedness. There's actually a verse that says, God became angry with the people because of their wickedness. He was ready to curse mankind and get rid of them completely, altogether. And it says that God was going to judge the world because of their sin. So God was promising judgment. But in the midst of this judgment, there's this verse that pops up right after God says that. It says, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. It says, Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. It says, Noah walked with God. And so this is a key verse as we kind of start into this story. Because here's the thing. We have to ask, what does that mean? What does it mean to find favor with God? I know it's a little hard to read there, so I'll repeat it. It says, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was a righteous man. Okay? So, there's two big questions. What does it mean that he found favor? And what does it mean that he is a righteous man? So these are big words. I'm going to try and break them down for you. Righteous is this word that I think sometimes we get hung up on and it's hard to interpret. Just pretend for a second that you are a farmer and you have 1 pound of corn. But before there was a pound system or a way to measure, you didn't exactly know what a pound was, right? So there was a measurement system that was set up, and it was basically they took a certain amount and they declared it that this was, let's just say for the sake of conversation, 1 pound. And so, if I came to you and Mitch comes to me and he says, I want to bring you 1 pound of corn, what will you give me? Well, the only way that, I could say, well, a pound is this much, or I could say a pound is this much, right? So I could rip Mitch off very easily. But if I put on one side of the scale, let's just say I dumped in what I thought was 1 pound, and then on the other side of the scale, I poured Mitch's in until it completely leveled out perfectly. And so that standard, it was met, right? So we put in 1 pound on this side, and then Mitch pours in his till the scale is completely balanced. And there's that perfect measure. And that was really the only way at that time to determine if something was of fair value, if it was good, if it was fair. And there was this term that it was righteous. You would know that something was righteous because it would equal out. It would meet the standard. So if whatever the standard was, you would meet it on the other side. And when the scale's balanced, it was perfect. And so really righteousness is about meeting or living up to, or it's meeting the standard. And so when we read about this story, God had set the standard that, right, the perfect standard, that sin was not allowed, that sin was not acceptable. And so righteousness